Hi. Welcome to the Human Design for Marketing podcast. I'm your host, Yvette Mayer, and this show's for you if you're done with cookie cutter marketing and ready to build your personal brand in alignment with who you really are. Let's dive in. Before we dive in to this episode, I have very exciting news. My signature 8-week program, The Frequency Project, is open for enrollment right now. I'm coming to you in early February 2024. So if you're listening to this in real time and if you love this podcast, know a bit about human design for marketing and want to take a deep dive into this wisdom so you can transform your ability to show up and create marketing that cuts through, that magnetizes your ideal clients and leads to business growth, then you do want to go down to the show notes right now and get all the information for the Frequency Project. I would love to have you joining us. If you have any questions, you can always jump on over to Instagram and into my DM. There's a link for that in the show notes as well. But the big and exciting news is that we are open right now. So go and check out the information and we would love to welcome you in. Hello and welcome back to the Human Design for Marketing podcast. This week, you are in some pretty lit up vibes from me after running the most successfully and highly engaged masterclass of my entire entrepreneurial journey, which has been over 5 years now. Last week, I ran Influence Activation, which is all about the human design profile lines, because they are the part of the system that really leads to us unlocking more influence in the way we express ourselves. So this masterclass is a really big, deep dive into the profile lines and specifically the tactics, the content, and the strategies that you can glean about your own design based on these elements in the profile lines. If you missed this, you do want to catch the replay. I'm going to leave the link in the show notes. It's only going to be available for about another 7 days. So this is only for you if you're listening in real time. Otherwise, you'll have to wait till we run it again in another few months. So in today's episode, I was so inspired by this class last week that I really wanted to jump in and take you through more about the master keys of the human design system that I find the most relevant and powerful for marketing. And not only that, but how you can, in your own way, contemplate this wisdom and apply this to your marketing without needing to come into a program with me. Although, of course, when you do join a program with me, you're going to go far more into the depths and not just integrate the wisdom, but actually embody it. So there's that. But for today, I'm going to share with you the 4 master keys and the additional 2 or 3 areas I find a lot of juice in the system so that you can spend time really understanding how to apply your human design to your marketing. And I know we're going to keep exploring this on the podcast. This won't be a one-time only offer, this level of sharing, because this really is my IP. This is my interpretation of the human design system and how it is so powerfully and potently valuable for you. And I'm going to be explaining it in a way that I think is simpler than I've ever done before. And I said before that this was off the back of last week's masterclass, because as I was preparing the class, and even though I'd run it before, I had some pretty big drop-ins. And yeah, let's call that divine guidance dropping in, actually in meditation around the way that I could express this so that it was more action oriented, so that you could listen and learn and take action immediately. And so that's the essence of today's episode. So we're going to be talking about your type, your profile lines, your personality sun, your personality Mercury, the transits, the centers, and your brand story. Now, all of these have had their own episodes in the past. So if anything stands out to you as something you want to learn more about, go back to previous podcast episodes and you can do a deep dive on any of these placements. But the essence of today is more about how do you bring this all together to create more magnetic marketing so that you can have greater impact and more effectiveness in the way that you share your beautiful business with your audience. So we're going to start today with your type and the way that I think about type in relation to marketing. So your type is whether you're a generator, a manifesting generator, a projector, a reflector, or a manifester. So this is the lead part of the system. This is where we start. It's the first thing that you're going to discover about your human design. So when you discover your type, you're also going to learn about the strategy for that type. Now, the strategy, as spoken to through human design, is basically how you're going to meet the least resistance in showing up in your life. I like to think about it as green lights all the way. Thank you, Matthew McConaughey. It's green lights. It's like if you operate in alignment with this energetic frequency, then you're going to have more green lights. So thinking about the strategy, obviously at a macro level, the strategies aren't marketing strategies. But the truth is, each of the strategies can be applied to your marketing. So when I look at type, and I fold in strategy and authority into type when I'm thinking about marketing implications, your type and your authority and your strategy are really about the energy that you show up in. It is about how you are designed to meet the most success in life as an essence. And it's also really important when you're thinking about your marketing strategy that you're able to draw a link between your human design strategy and your marketing strategy. So this part of your chart is going to help you set your marketing strategy. That's the most important thing to know. It is going to help you understand strategically how you show up as a human to gain the most traction. So by way of an example, I'll refer to generators, which is almost 70% of the population when you consider that many gens are generators as well. The strategy for generators is to respond. Now, when you think about your marketing, this means that you're not strategically designed to come up with ideas, initiatives, big creative directional changes in a vacuum. That your strategy is to be very open-minded and seek stimulus and engage with your audience, for instance, and to only develop offers, pricing, marketing in response, right? So it's a very direct correlation. This is part of your strategy as a brand, that what you're doing is you're being very observant and that you're responding to the needs of the market, to the challenges of your ideal audience, and that you're meeting that with your offers. And that includes how you position your offers, how you market those offers, how you sell to people. It's all in response. So that's the first master key. Now, the part that authority is really relevant for in this mix is that your authority gives you a little bit of brand personality. So this can shine through around your expression and your voice. For instance, I am a sacral generator, and because I have this sacral yes or no thing going on, I'm always very in high levels of conviction around my decisions. And so what this brings into my marketing is a high level of certainty. Now, certainty is really magnetic because it is akin to authority in marketing, and people really buy from you if they trust you. So certainty as a tone of voice in marketing builds trust. Hugely, hugely important. So this combination of having a strategy where I'm genuinely curious about my audience and also what's happening in the marketplace and more broadly, and creating in response to that is a huge strategic pillar of my business and my marketing. Now, other things about being a certain type is just exploring what about the type that I am, from my understanding, is marketing friendly. What is relevant about this type of person that my people are going to want to experience? So for me, I know that as a generator, we have a lot of energy. We get a lot of things done. And so other types are quite curious about, well, how do you get all of that done? And what are you even doing now? Tell me more. So that's a big part of my strategy. And then there is this fact that I have a pretty strong perspective on things. And so my audience, I know they want to hear from me with my perspective, whether that is hot takes, whether it is calling out the BS in the industry, which I do love to do. So that is a wrap up on the first master key, which is your type, including your authority. The second master key is your profile lines. You know, I always say this, but the profile lines are my favorite when it comes to marketing because they are so closely linked to how we influence others, and influencing others is what we need to do in our marketing. Now, let's talk about how this specifically affects our marketing. Two key ways. It's going to help you determine the right platforms and tactics, as well as give you at least one content pillar based on your profile lines. So platforms, what I'm talking about there is that depending on your profile lines, different platforms, whether it be social media, email marketing, it could even be being in a one-on-one in-person networking environment. It may be a type of tactic like video versus written content. All of these decisions can be made in alignment with our profile lines. I'll do this very quickly, but here's an example. So line 1, which is all about foundations, has the ability to do long form content. So this could inform one of your strategies or your tactics in your marketing is to create long form content, whether that be masterclasses, blog posts, podcasts. That's all relevant for a line 1 because you have such deep knowledge from all of that investigating you do. A line 2 is this hermit and quietly gifted. Now, the line 2 is more introverted as a line and less able to see their gifts. But what's really important from a platform perspective is that they're genuinely aware of what people are asking them or you about. You want to not rely on your own intuition, shall we say, around the gifts that you have, but to see what others are curious about, because you have a little bit of a blind spot here. And it's going to really help you develop the right platforms, shall we say, in your marketing when you listen, when you start to understand that your gifts need to come out and that other people are going to give you the clues to how that works for you. You will want to lean more into your other line as a line 2 when it comes to marketing, because as I said, it's a more introverted energy. It's an energy where things like automation are important. So I would say this is a good strategy for you, that you know that you're going to need time in your cave. You're going to need to be in your own energy to come up with your most potent marketing content. Therefore, can you have systems and processes in your business that help you deliver marketing when you're in your cave? And yes, automation's a really big part of that. The line 3, I mean, there's so much in the line 3, but the one thing that I would suggest is that you're telling stories all of the time in your content, your lived experience, whether it's a story from the weekend just past or one of the big parts of your brand story, whatever the case, your stories, especially the lessons. And yes, I am talking about when things go wrong, not just when things work out. This is a huge pillar in your marketing. The line 4 You are a hugely influential energy, but the way your energy works is one-to-one versus one-to-many. So in a social media context, this means connecting with people one-on-one. It means engaging with other people's content, talking to people in the DM, cheering other women along actually gets you onto their radar. Now, what happens with you is when you start bottom up, and that means like you're starting from one-to-one and you're building out to many, the other people you connect with spread your message. You're incredibly powerful as an affiliate, and also you're able to grow the efforts of others' businesses because you're such a beautiful cheerleader. So this is a really important strategy or pillar in your business as a line 4. The line 5 has actually the opposite. When I think about the line 5, it's wants to be on the stage, wants to grandstand and talk to the masses versus one-to-one. One thing I'd say for a line 5 is that you naturally identify problems and solutions, and you're also very magnetic on camera. And so video content that identifies problems and solutions is a great pillar for you in your marketing. And then the line 6, which is this sage energy, the very wise soul who's, if particularly you're over that age of 50, you're on or off the roof and you have this element of you're not just trusted, you're definitely someone that we go to as an expert or as a person that we want to pick your brain. But you also have this beautiful energy around you of sharing and educating. So teaching and education is a really important aspect of what you do in your marketing. Now, for every line, I have way more depth of insight than that. But for today's episode, we're going to keep moving. We've kind of done the type, or we have done the type. We've looked at the profile lines. So we've looked at strategy and we've looked at how. So when I say how, I'm talking about the platforms and the content pillars. Next, we look at the what you say. The what you say, or the essence of your personal brand, comes from your personality sun. This spot in your chart, or this placement in your chart, is a huge life theme. It's a lesson that you keep learning, and it's an opportunity in your growth through this lesson to bring into the world. And look, I have a gate 3 here. This is difficulty at the beginning. If you've been a listener for a while, you know this. I am very aware that it is in my chart and in my personal brand that I'm here to help you go from things feeling difficult or feeling stuck. Maybe you're frustrated with your marketing and you're not getting enough traction. Well, I'm here to let you know that I've been there too, and how I've innovated from that place and built more success. Now, you hear this from me all the time, but right now I want you to build a bridge between the messaging you hear from me and what I have sitting in this gate, right? This is the essence of who I am as a personal brand, and also what I frequently share on. And then it's a huge factor when I think about telling my brand story as well. There are other elements that are that I leverage around brand story, but this is the primary placement for your brand story. Then we have your personality Mercury. So this is your soul's message. I find that consistently when I'm talking to women about their Mercury, it's like a coming home to a familiar essence, a message that they've repeated without any awareness that it was in their design. It's gold. And it is, again, it's going to be something that comes out of your mouth without you even being conscious to it. But when you do get conscious to it, you can use it far more powerfully to speak into the heart of not just your brand, but the communication style that people will receive from you and take action from. I have the 3 here as well, which means that there's a lot more depth in what I say as a brand and how I communicate it. Not to say that's an advantage. It's just the one thing for me over and over and over again. It does make it maybe a little bit easier because it's all that same theme. But having two gives you a little bit more headroom, a little bit more creative freedom. So they're the four placements that make up the Human Design for Marketing blueprint. But the way that I wanted to share them today is to make it a bit clearer. So your type is your strategy, and it's relevant for it's your marketing strategy too. Your profile lines are your influence, and they show you which pillars and platforms are right for you as a brand. Your personality sun is your brand essence, and it is what you're here to share, to teach, to help others with. And your personality Mercury is how you communicate that. It's your soul's message. So I hope that really makes this crystal clear for you. Now, the other parts of the human design system that I am frequently referring to that I want to make sure we drop into here. So the brand story, I mentioned this already, but other parts of the system that I use for working with clients on their brand story are your incarnation cross. I find this very relevant when it comes to what you do as a business, because it's akin to your life purpose, less about marketing, but more about why am I even here? What am I designed to do in the world? And that does feed into your brand story. I loved working with the nodes. Your south node is an essence that you came in with a lot of consistency around. Again, it's about theme of life. And then your north node is an energy that you're moving towards. And this creates narrative. It creates narrative in your brand story. So you understand as an energy where you came in with consistency and where you're growing into. So for me, I have the 4, which is called youthful folly, in my south node. And I have the 49, which is revolutionary energy in my north node. And so I'm over 50. I am much more into the revolutionary stage of my life. And I can see this clearly in my own life and career up until now. And that comes through in my brand story as well. Moving on from brand story, I wanted to talk about the ways of understanding your audience when it comes to your human design, or our human design, I should say, when we're thinking about others. And this is where the transits comes into play. So the transits themselves can help you individually as well. That's another conversation, which I do get into the frequency project, because it's a really robust way of working with your own energy. But for now, I want to talk about how it creates the background frequency. And it's so powerful. Like, this knowledge of what's going on collectively around themes and moods and shadows and full gift expression gives us something to really hang on to in our content that we know is going to connect with people. That's a very lofty statement, but what happens in the transits is a new energy comes in every 6 days into the sun placement. And the sun is the dominant placement, just like in astrology. So when this gate comes in, it does have an effect on the collective conscious level. And, you know, we spent all of our lives before human design not knowing this. And yet, when you work with the transit, you're going to start to see that you cannot make this stuff up. Like, it is mind-blowing how often I'm creating content where I'm like rubbing my head with like, oh my God, I can't believe this. It's just so bang on. This is exactly what I share on the Human Design podcast with Emma Dunwoody. Every month is a forecast and also a wrap up of the previous month. So make sure you go and listen to those episodes, which I do as co-host once a month, because it's a lot of fun actually, as well as being really informative around your audience. So highly recommend that you check out the Human Design podcast. and that you watch my YouTube channel where I have a new episode every 6 days that not only tells you what the gate is about, but also includes content prompts so that you can take advantage of the energy to create more relevant content. And that's what this is really about for you. It's about knowing how to use human design to connect more deeply into your audience. Because when you connect to your audience, you're going to have more success with engagement in your marketing. And I know you definitely want that. And then the final piece is the centers. Now, it's funny that in my business, we don't start with the centers, because in human design more broadly, it is one of the first things you're going to look at, where you have definition in your body graph. These are the big shapes if you're less familiar with human design. Which ones are coloured in and which ones are open. The coloured means you're defined. The white or the open, it means you're not defined there. And this has a huge relationship with the type you are. So really, your centers lead to which type you are. And so they're almost before knowing your human design type. But when it comes to marketing, the way that I have used these with the most value is actually around understanding messaging. So it does kind of come, beyond where we've been and getting to audience and understanding the messaging based on your blueprint that is going to be the most magnetic for your audience as well. And there is a whole episode on this, by the way, which is about selling based on human design. According to Ra, and I've experimented with this myself with great success, we sell from where we're open because it's where we need to learn more during our lives. And when we're open and we're learning, when we speak into this essence, we're far more magnetic because we're believable. If we're speaking from a place where we have consistency and we're selling from consistency, it's not relatable to people who have an issue. They're like, how would you even know you've always had this? Not consciously, unconsciously. Unconsciously, they don't believe you. But when you sell from your openness, you've had the experience. You are incredibly believable, and that makes you more magnetic. So again, this is a part of the human design system that helps us consider others. It helps us consider our audience and craft our messaging based on these open centers in our own chart, knowing that other people who are also open in these places are going to connect more deeply to us. Now, I will say that the way the centers work, there are two centers that have higher amounts of openness than any others, and they are the head center and the heart center. So these particular placements, I happen to be open in both, where I spend a lot of time thinking about sales messaging, knowing that I am magnetic in these centers, and there's also a high proportion of the population who happen to be open there that will really feel magnetized by that kind of messaging. So that's it for this episode. I wanted to give you the update. And I think, I can't tell you this information too many times. I always talk about the importance of repetition in human design and in business and life in general, because we don't learn properly the first time we hear something. It takes many times to really integrate and take us to a place of embodiment with knowledge. I also think that the longer that I spend in this specialty, so shall we say, the clearer I'm able to speak to this through experience, because I've now had so many more hours of let's call it, so many more practical hours of working with clients, of running masterclasses, of being in programs. And so the language gets clearer and clearer over time. I don't think this will be the last time I go through the human design for marketing elements that we focus on, but it is the most up-to-date for now as of February 2024. And I also wanted to share this because this is essentially the agenda inside the Frequency Project. So we go through every element that I have just spoken to in great detail. There are recorded modules and lessons so that you can go
over and over and over again on the particular topics that are right and relevant for you, so that you do land this and you do take action and actually have the incredible results that I've experienced and many of my clients have as well in their business and in their marketing. So if you're feeling curious about the Frequency Project, the doors are open right now. As I record this, we're at, what date is it? As I record this, it is the 13th of February. The doors are open for another week. Our first call is on the 22nd of February, Australian Eastern Time, which, yeah, it's about a week from when you're hearing this, if you're listening in real time. If you've got questions, as I said, come into my Instagram DM, send me an email, reach out somehow, and I would be happy to answer them and even jump on a quick call. That's it for now. Thanks again for listening, and I'll be back with you soon. Bye for now.
There are heaps more resources in the show notes. I can't wait to be back in your ears again soon. Bye for now.